This is the Build a Vibrant Culture podcast, your source for the strategies, systems, and insights you need to turn your dreams into your destiny. Every week, we dive into dynamic conversations as our host, Nicole Greer, interviews leadership and business experts. They're here to shed light on practical solutions to the challenges of personal and professional development. Now, here's your host, a professional speaker, coach, and consultant, Nicole Greer.
Welcome, everybody, to the Build a Vibrant Culture podcast. My name is Nicole Greer, and they call me the Vibrant Coach. And I have got an amazing author on the show today, and she's way more than an author. Let me read her bio so you can get your head wrapped around all this. So, today on the show, I have Irma Neal. She is a seasoned financial coach, leadership expert, and author of the book Leading in Chaos. And if you're on the YouTube, look what I got in my hot little hands. All right, so Leading in Chaos, it's insights to lead through the storms. With decades of experience guiding individuals and organizations through organizational turbulence and leadership challenges, Irma has become a trusted voice in developing strategies to navigate uncertainty with resilience and empathy. As the owner of Onyx Rising, a firm that specializes in inclusive cultures and financial change management, Irma is passionate about helping leaders embrace love and care. What a concept for a culture, love and care. That's a thing. She is all about building that, and she gives people powerful tools for overcoming chaos in the workplace. Her book, Leading in Chaos, is a reflection of her belief that leadership rooted in love and empathy can guide organizations and teams through the toughest of storms. Irma advocates for using compassion and understanding as strategic approaches to leadership, especially in moments of crisis. Irma is a former deputy mayor of Indianapolis, vice president at 2 Fortune 500 corporations, and the owner of 3 small businesses. She's recently widowed. Irma has 1 son and 2 grandbabies. Irma, I want some grandbabies. How did you do it?
They are a blessing, I'll tell you. It is so much better than being a parent.
I love it. I
It
love it.
really is. There's nothing like those grandbabies.
I
You'll
know that.
see.
I got to have a couple weddings before I can have some grandchildren.
Now
So,
that's very important. Yeah.
yeah,
My
yeah.
one son did do it the right way. He did get married before he had the kids. So that was good.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah.
That's what I've been
Yeah.
encouraging mine since they were itty bitty. I'm like, let's do things in order. It just
Yeah.
makes life easier. Yeah, that's
Much.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got
Mhm.
all my girlfriends, and including my new girlfriend here, Irma. They're all having the grandbabies, and I'm just jealous. But anyway, it's all good. So we're going to talk about leading in chaos, and I just love your foundational belief. I just love it that love and empathy can guide an organization. Will you talk a little bit about love and empathy in the workplace? I think that's a fantastic concept.
Well, I think one of the things that runs through my mind all the time is people don't come to work intent on making mistakes,
No.
intent on doing. All of us bring our whole selves to the job, right? And
Yeah.
so, as leaders, it is our responsibility to tap into the trigger that makes them good. And
Right.
that is praise when it's deserved. Talking about if something goes wrong, it's the behavior, it's not the person. You
Mm,
split those two up and you just lead with, I see you, I respect you, I know that you have worth, I know that you are going to do the right thing as we try to move this organization forward. And I
mhm,
think the other key thing is making sure to communicate the vision, the goal, and how that person fits into that goal, that each of them have a part to play in that goal. When I
mhm.
was in DC, I stepped into something I I wasn't expecting. I mean, it was every day my mouth would drop open and I'd say, oh my God, what
What is
is
going
going on?
on?
Is there such a place as this in the workplace? It was incredible. Things I had never seen before. Things like 2 drug overdoses on heroin inside a 30-day period in
Mm,
the office. And I'm from the Midwest, so my values are a bit different than the East Coast. So I had to learn how to navigate all these different things. And I think that the foundation was what my parents gave me:
mm,
love, of respect for everybody. Everybody's got worth. Deal with the problem. Don't cover up anything. Deal with it openly, honestly, transparently, and it gets there. And the other thing I never do, I've led lots of organizations. I never read a personnel file before I meet that person
Yeah, you wanna
because
get your own first impression, don't you?
first impressions, right?
That's
And
right.
they will let you know who they are. As I found out in DC, they will let you know who they are pretty quickly. Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty quick.
And, in your book, I love the way you've got it laid out. You've got these management insights. They're like what I would call like little nuggets of goodness that are throughout the
Yeah,
book. And right before chapter one, you've got management insight number one. There's no such word as can't. And when you
right.
hear about when she arrived in Washington, D.C., you're going to see how she lived that out. And then you've got in here, in all things, get understanding, which is actually from Proverbs 4:7. So, try to understand what's going on before you start making a lot of changes, right? And then number three, never give up on anybody. Miracles happen every day. And that's from Life's Instruction Book by H. Jackson Brown Jr. So she's got these little nuggets that she's put in there and then tells you a story. So chapter one blew me away. The name of it, listen to this chapter name, everybody. TVs, fish fries, and sex. Okay, so you thought this was a leadership program, and it is. But you left the Midwest, like you just said. You went to Washington, D.C. to work inside the government and work underneath Marion Barry's administration. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So tell
Yeah.
us what your first couple of weeks were like. We heard about the two overdoses, but there's more.
There's a lot more. Well,
Right?
it really just blew me away. I walked in and staff people had TVs at their desk. Not all of them, but a lot of them had the TVs and they were looking at the stories and all that stuff at the time. And I equate that now to cell phones. Now, employees have cell phones. You walk into an office or something and the receptionist got her cell phone. She's looking at herself. It's the same concept. They were looking at their televisions and all
Right? The
that.
screens, all the
The
screens.
screens. Yeah, all the
Yeah.
screens. So one of the first things I did was I told the management team, you have to tell your staff to take the TVs home, that they got till Friday to move the TVs out. And one of the managers, I'll never forget, Miss Tate, she said to me, are you going to tell Marcia that she has to take her television home? Marcia, by the way, was one of the bullies in the office, right?
Uh-huh.
So I told her, I said, I'm not going to tell her, you're going to tell her.
That's right.
And if
That's
you
your
can't
role.
tell her, then I'll handle it. And then I find out that in the same management meeting, this is the first management meeting, one of the other managers said, well, Miss Neal, while we're at it, you ought to stop them from frying fish on Fridays. Says the whole floor smells like fish because they have a fish fry on Friday. I said, are you kidding me? I never heard of such. So I said, okay, immediately the fish fries got to go. Then the next thing I heard was, and that empty office back there with that couch in it? It's empty right now. It's the one that I can't remember the guy's name who had that office, but he brought in a couch. And do you know that there's sex going on in that office?
And you were like, I got to get my
Oh,
resume together.
I said, oh my God, what is to come?
Yeah.
What is to come? But anyway, inside of 2 weeks, all that was taken care of. And what I found incredible is how many of the staff, there was 120 staff members at that time.
Yeah.
How many of them were craving the kind of structure and stuff that I immediately started putting into place?
Mhm.
And what I learned from this, and this is where the title of the book comes from. What I learned from that Washington, D.C. experience is that no matter how bad things are, somebody is benefiting from the chaos. Somebody in the organization or someone is benefiting from the chaos. They want to keep it going. So finding that person is not that difficult to do in organizations, but finding that person and then nurturing them is one of the things I really honed my skills on in DC. So yeah, that was the first few weeks. I was there 3 years and 2 weeks.
Yeah. So, not many people are going to have that kind of experience, but I love what you just said about people crave that structure. I mean, I think that is so true. People want to know it's safe and that somebody's paying attention. We have a leader who's conscious and, looking around. And I think people want to go to work because they actually want to do well. Like you said earlier, people don't come to work to make mistakes. They come to work to have like fulfillment. And it's hard
Right.
to have fulfillment in chaos. I know that.
Right. Exactly
Yeah.
right. And there's
Yeah,
nothing like the joy of seeing an organization turn around. It is just an incredible experience. It really is. And how many people come to the rescue. I mean, there were times when I wanted to quit. In fact, one time I did call home my old boss, who was the attorney general at the time, and I asked him, I said, "Can I get my old job back?" And he said, "Give me a few days, I'll do something." And before I could make the transition to go back, something really big happened, and that was that my office was broken into. I talk about this in the book.
Oh, yeah, tell that story. Listen to
Yeah,
this, y'all. This is crazy.
yeah. I usually lock the office, but over the weekend, I left on Friday, came back on Monday. The office door was wide open and the office had been destroyed. And
Mm,
one of my really sentimental art pieces had been thrown on the floor and the glass broken. But
mm,
what was really interesting, it looked like there was a bullet that had pierced the plexiglass window. And so I look at it and it wasn't fear, it was anger.
yeah, you're like,
It was
"That's
anger.
it."
And so I went out and told the busybody in the office. This is a quote. I told her, I said, "If you wanted me to go home, you should have left me alone and I would
Right.
have been gone. Now I'm not going any effing where until I get ready. So you tell them I'm not going anyway." So
Yeah,
that was really the turnaround. And I think back on it because I was pretty young, but I think back on it and it was just that resilience that I had learned growing up and going back to that word, you can. No such word as can. I can do this. And then I found that I had a lot of allies because none of us do it alone. None
mm,
of us
mm,
make
mm,
big
mm.
turnarounds in our lives or in our careers without other people. So I had a lot of allies when they saw what I was about. And there weren't all these personal agendas and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it was an experience, but it made me fearless. I mean, by the
That's right.
time I
Got
Wow.
bullets coming at me and they destroyed
Right,
my office. Okay,
right.
game on.
Game on. And by the time I got to corporate America, it was nothing. I mean, it was
Oh,
a piece
yeah,
of cake,
right.
you know? So I wouldn't take anything for the experience. And the reason I wrote the book is because I tell these stories and people say, "Oh, no, that didn't happen. Oh, you ought to write a book. You ought to write a book." So after I lost my husband, I needed something to channel that grief and stuff. So I wrote the book. And you know what I found is I had started keeping a diary. I wrote the book from memory. But when
Yeah.
I went back and looked at the diary that I had misplaced in a move, there was a lot more that
Oh, yeah.
happened that I
Oh, you're like,
didn't
"Oh,
include
yeah, I
in the book.
forgot about that
Yeah, I
one."
forgot about that one. Yeah, I forgot about that one.
That's fantastic. All right. Well, so that's chapter one. So that's probably got you hooked right there. It's like, I want to hear more. All right. So then she has management insights right before chapter two. And in there, she says, identify and introduce yourself to the power brokers. Make sure they know your name. Will you define, first of all, what is a power broker?
I define that as all the people that are above you, the people in charge, the people that you might not come across in your everyday life,
Yeah.
but find ways to know the organizational chart. And one of the most important people in the organizational chart are those administrative assistants, executive assistants, the gatekeepers.
Oh, my goodness. She's
Okay.
not kidding.
Yeah, because if you know the gatekeepers, there's one instance in the book where I was under political fire. And the idea was to blindside me publicly with television cameras and all that, to blindside me publicly. And the person that saved us was the gatekeeper
Mm,
for one of the council members who was behind me. She didn't know she was saving me, but she just called to ask some questions that let me know, okay, this is the plan. So instead of me going in there blind, I was prepared.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I always kid, but I'm not really kidding, that the administrative assistants, they're running the show. I mean, they're
Exactly.
keeping everything flowing, the meetings
Exactly.
happening, the stuff's going out in the mail, the emails are happening, the
And
gen
they know what's going on. They're
privy.
hearing the conversation. They're privy to all the information. Yeah, that has served me for so many years. I'll tell you, for your listeners, if there's one thing you can do that will help your career is to know those gatekeepers, treat them right,
Mhm.
and cultivate a working relationship, a good working relationship with them. It will pay off every time, every
Yeah.
single time.
Yeah, I always joke they know where the coffee filters are and the skeletons. They know everything.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah,
Exactly
yeah.
right. Yeah.
And then you have a second management insight in here, which is number 5. When you encounter difficulties, just ask for help. You never know who will come to your rescue.
That's exactly right. And it comes from such unlikely places. In my career, I've never applied for a promotion. Never. They just kept coming, and they would come from, like, the biggest one when I went from government to corporate. The person who said my name to IBM
Right.
was a person I didn't even know she liked me. I didn't even know she thought that way about me.
Oh.
But you never know. You just never know. And then when you're in trouble, and I'll give you an example that happened just yesterday in my meeting with my marketing person. She is building a business called Bombshell Bakes, and she's going to have a dessert truck, right?
Oh my gosh, I love the
So
name. Don't you love the name? So
yeah, I love
cute.
it. Yeah, and she's really good too.
Yeah.
But anyway, she got a disappointment about the truck yesterday. I just asked her, I said, "How you doing? How's things going with the dessert truck?" And she almost bust out crying. She
Oh.
said, "Just yesterday, I got word that the mechanic is not going to be able to finish the work. I'm in Evansville, it's in Indianapolis, just at her wit's end." And in that conversation, because she had that conversation, my partner and I and her worked out how she was going to make that happen just because she asked for help. You just never know where your help's coming from. And too many people try to select who they want. But help comes from unlikely places if you just let people know you need help. And
Yeah.
that, again, is a life lesson. That's not just work, that's just life. When you're having trouble, ask for help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love what you're saying. I read something just yesterday that was similar to this. There was a young gal, she's about 19 years old. She's driving home from college. Her car breaks down, and this guy pulls over, and she's scared
Yeah.
because she's like, oh, is he friend or foe kind of thing.
Right. Right.
And she said he went in the front of her car and waved and said, I got a baby that's just your age. And if she was on the side of the road, I hope somebody change her tire. He goes, "Lock your doors, but pop your trunk, and I'll change your tire, and you just sit right there in the car." And so
That's
she did, she's 19.
right.
And then, she's like, "Okay, this guy is a really good guy." So, of course, she jumps out of the car. She's got a selfie of her with this guy. It's just the greatest little story. People do have good hearts, right? It's like
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
said
They
before,
do.
love and empathy go a long way in this
Yeah.
lifetime.
Exactly right. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I love that. Okay. So, chapter 3 is called You Can't Leave. And this is one I want you to tell the story. But her management insight here is assess the opportunity with facts, not emotion. Make sure you have identified the elements and the environment you need to succeed and never take a tougher job for less money. Boy, that management insight number 7, you can take it to the bank. Literally, never take a tougher job for less money. So, talk a little bit about chapter 3, You Can't Leave, in those 2 management insights.
Well, what was happening then is I was transitioning to Washington, D.C. from Indianapolis, Indiana, where I'm from.
Yeah.
And the staff, if you create the right kind of environment, your staff and management don't want to see you go.
Right.
And that's what was happening there. They didn't want to see me go. They kept saying, "You can't leave." And the attorney general, prosecuting attorney said the same thing. "You can't leave." And so I thought, well, this means I need to leave because you're depending on me too much, and it's hampering my personal growth.
Yeah.
I'm going from managing a staff of 50 to managing a staff of 120 plus in Washington, D.C., which is a beautiful city. It's our
Oh, I
nation's
love Washington,
capital.
D.C.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's our nation's capital. It's the hub of everything that's going on. And it was more money. In fact, it was almost twice as much,
Oh,
really.
gotta take that.
You gotta take it, right?
Mhm.
So I kept hearing, you can't leave. And I'm thinking, I sat down with the facts. One of the things I learned through my whole career, and I think it's because I'm an African American also,
Mhm.
is that you have to deal with the facts. I can't help how you feel about me emotionally, or because I'm Black, or because I'm a woman, or all that. That
Right.
is stuff that is beyond my control.
That's exactly right.
And so I deal with the facts. All the facts said to me, this is a move you need to take. Okay. But what was interesting, and this is one of the things I didn't put in the book, was that I went to Washington, D.C., and they recruited me. I went there to check it out. The first time I said, absolutely not. And I didn't know half of what was to come. But I said, no, it's not enough money. There isn't an infrastructure for me to succeed. And the reason I came to that conclusion was because the office at that time was way down in the chain in the Department of Human Services. It was way down. It was like 2 or 3 under. Before you get to the top, you're like 2 or 3 levels down. Too much work, just assessing what was going on. I said, no, I'm not going to do it. So then a few weeks later, they come back, and this time it is the mayor. The first time it was like his assistant, or I can't remember, but this time it was actually him. And he's saying, we need to give this one more try. Come back, give him one more try. So at that one, it was a whole higher level, and they changed the bureaucracy. They moved the
So don't miss that,
organization up.
everybody. Even government can change. Don't miss that.
Right. They moved the organization up so that I was a direct report. And then that's when I said, okay, I'll do it. But then I don't know, some of the stuff I went through, I think about it, some of the things I went through, would I have done it even then? Probably so. Because, like I said, the lessons I got out of it. I mean, I got lifelong friends. My very best friend in the world is Diane. That's who I talk about in the book,
Mhm.
because we just went through the war together, and it just made me strong. It just made me fearless. So
Yeah, that's so
thankful
good.
for that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. And when she's saying fearless, I'm curious, Irma, if you're thinking about this, but like a lot of the people I coach, a lot of the people that are in my training sessions when I'm doing trainings, they talk a lot about confidence, or I need confidence. And I think what you're saying is well, I went through this storm, I went through this chaos, and that just gave me all the confidence in the world, which means now I'm fearless. Like I bring
Exactly.
it on, I don't
Bring it
whenever
on.
because I'm gonna use my brain, and then I
Right.
love you because you're like love and empathy. I'm gonna use my heart,
Right.
and then
Right.
maybe even my guts or my
Right.
soul, right, to navigate this
Exactly.
thing. Like it's all good.
Exactly. It's all good. Yeah,
Yeah,
and so many times, like I said, in chaos, there's so much noise, it's hard to get focused. So that's the thing, to
yeah,
just
I love that.
stay on goal, on target, block out the noise. And then sometimes there were plenty of times when I went in the office and did the deep breathing exercises,
Right.
and yeah, had to do it.
Mindfulness. She's talking about mindfulness, right?
Exactly.
Maybe it
Exactly.
wasn't labeled that at the time. I don't know. Probably was, but that's awesome.
Are you ready to build your vibrant culture? Bring Nicole Greer to speak to your leadership team, conference, or organization to help them with their strategies, systems, and smarts to increase clarity, accountability, energy, and results. Your organization will get lit from within. Email her at nicole@vibrantculture.com, and be sure to check out Nicole's TEDx talk at vibrantculture.com.
Okay, so then we move on, and in the book, chapter 4 is called Drugs. And so in here, she has 2 management insights. One is number 8 in the book, management insight number 8, if you're keeping track, if you're writing things down. Keep your own counsel. When your internal instincts say it's time to move on, do it. So that's like listening to your soul or your gut, right? A little bit
As
about that.
women, we as women have that.
Oh, yes.
We really do. We
Mhm.
have it. And so when you hear that little voice and it says, okay, it's time to do this, then you need to listen to it. I don't think that we as women use that superpower that we have as much as we should. And keep your own counsel. With that, I mean, that doesn't mean don't listen to others, but again, take in the advice and then make your own decision based upon your values, your background, your goal for your life,
Mhm.
and weed out all because people are full of advice. I mean, they'll give
Good,
you
bad, and otherwise,
good, bad,
right?
and the other, right? And
Right.
if I hadn't kept my own counsel, I wouldn't have gone to DC because even my mother said, don't go.
Right.
She
She wanted to
said,
keep you safe.
keep
Yeah.
me safe. Exactly. I was
They
going
do.
from this Midwest slow city to the big leagues. Yeah.
Yeah, and here's the thing, I think kind of the word that's buzzing around in my head when it says keep your own counsel, it's kind of a religious word or a spiritual word, but it's like you need to discern before you decide. That's what I tell a lot of
Exactly.
people. I'm like, you don't have to decide today. You have to
Exactly.
discern, sit with it.
Sit, you hit it on the head. Sit with it.
Yeah.
Be still for a minute.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. Yep, you hit it. You're absolutely right.
Right. Okay. So that's management insight number 8. And number 9 is don't let the feelings of others blur your vision of what's best for you. And of course, this is right before chapter 4, which is called drugs. So tell us a little bit about that, the vision for your future. It's kind of the same thing we said about Mama doesn't want me to go, but
Right.
tell us a little bit about what happened here.
Well, that one, I'm trying to, this is several years ago, but
Well,
I,
you want me to tell you? It says call 911. John has OD'd in the men's room. John was on
yeah,
my staff and he had just overdosed on heroin in the office bathroom, unconscious with a needle still in his arm. He had overdosed on heroin in the workplace during working hours in the office, 500 feet from his desk.
yeah. And that one, that's where my values were in conflict with what was the process because my Midwest values say to me that
Hmm.
if somebody uses drugs on the job, they get fired. They are terminated, right?
Right.
And so in DC, that wasn't the policy. The policy was that drug addiction is a disease and that the employee needs help and they should be able to go to an employee assistance program for that. All well and good. My value said, okay, I'm helping John. What about the rest of the people? What's the impact on the rest of the staff?
Mm,
What's the impact on the job, on the performance? What's the impact on me getting to the vision? Is it the one or is it the many?
mm,
I chose my internal value system and said, no, he's got to go.
mhm.
I got to fire him
Yeah.
because I can't risk the rest of the people and what we're trying to do. And to his credit, the mayor backed me. He says, do what you need to do. He says, I got to tell you, he's going to get his job back, but it's going to take him a while to get his job back. So that'll give you time to do the things you need to do to get the organization ready. It was all driven by these federal incentives that were being paid at the time to government. So I did. And he took me through arbitration and all that stuff. And I explained where I was coming from and why I did what I did. In the end, he did get his job back. But again, you know what I did the day he came back? I knew he was coming back.
Tell me.
We went arm in arm around the office, and I said, he's back and he's clean.
Big deal. It's a big
Big deal.
deal.
He's
Mhm.
back and he's clean. And do you know that that gentleman, John, became one of my staunchest supporters?
Of course.
He really did. Because I guess it forced him to look at himself or the desire to get clean. I don't know what it was that made him get clean, but in that period of time, he did. And he did get his job back. And I didn't hold it against him. I didn't feel like I had failed. In fact, I felt success that he was back and he was better than he was when he left.
Yeah.
So
Well, gosh, we all make mistakes. Maybe we don't overdose on heroin in the bathroom, but, like varying degrees of mistakes. I mean, it's a mistake is a mistake. And if somebody
exactly.
can make up for it and come out on the other side and learn from it, I mean, that's the thing we need to celebrate.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the context is important here too, because
Yeah.
then we didn't know as much about addiction as we do now. And there weren't the same level of resources that there are now. So I have asked myself if I would have handled it differently today than I did back then, but there's no use second guessing what's happened. It
That's right.
turned
It's in the
out good.
past.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it
Yeah.
turned out good. So
Yeah, and so you've already said this, but management insight 10, if you're writing these down, is always do what your value system says is right, even when the rules say you are wrong. So that just exemplifies that. And many of you who listen to the podcast, you know that I'm a big believer in figuring out what your personal core values are. I think a lot of people are working in the wrong place, doing the wrong things. It's a misalignment of values.
that's
It's like,
true. Very
and
true.
your unique ability. Like you got to figure out. I have a little methodology called Shine, Irma, and the first thing I try to work with people on is self-assessment. Like, how are you hardwired? What are your values? All that kind of stuff, because then it'll inform you, and a lot of that is on the inside and requires
Exactly right.
discernment.
I
Yeah.
love it. That's exactly right. Yep,
Y-
I agree.
Yeah. All right. So management insight 11. Despite the noise around you, stay focused on the results you want to achieve. And then chapter 5 is troublemakers and misfits. And gosh, why can't these troublemakers and misfits behave? I just don't even understand. But I call the misfits and the troublemakers turkeys, Irma. When I talk to my leaders, I'm like, listen, you're going to have eagles on your team and you're going to have turkeys on your team. And the eagles, they fly high. You say, go out and do it. And they take off and they go do their thing and they come back with what you've asked them to bring you. And then the turkeys are just, 6 feet off the ground. Boop, 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 boop. They're just talking and gossiping and all that. So I think that's really important. So talk about misfits and troublemakers just a minute. What do we do with these people?
Well, they will take a lot of your time. That's
Yes.
for sure. The thing is to try to, as you said, try to gauge the internal wiring. And
Hmm.
that you do through good conversations with them. And again, I go back to everybody has value.
Mm.
So part of what we have to do as leaders is figure out where their value fits into our mission and goals and vision of whatever it is. They do take a lot of time, but it's worth it in the end because they do become the strongest allies you have if you can convert them. Yeah, if you can convert them. And there is one failure in the book that I talk about, one person I wasn't able to ever
Wake up.
wake up or, yeah, ever change. And you'll have that too. But they take a lot of time, but in the end, they're worth it. And I got so many examples of the misfits turning around. I never will forget this one. This was before I even got to DC. She was the worst office gossip you ever heard. Just kept stuff going all the time.
Stirring the pot.
Oh my God. And so we had this thing called the idea contest where I said, okay, staff, give us all the ideas you have to make the organization better. Just give them to us, right? And we're going to implement those. We're going to assess them and implement them and stuff. You guess who had the best idea in the whole office?
Miss Gossip.
She did. She eliminated one whole job.
Wow.
And that just taught me right then, never try to guess where the good ideas are coming from.
That's
The
right. That's right.
message can from anybody.
Irma, I love what you're saying about they can take a lot of your time. But, this has been going on since the beginning of time where, like, what's wrong with him? Why does he do that? What is his deal?
Exactly.
Like the leaders are like, I don't
Exactly.
understand. And it's like, right, you don't understand because you didn't have a mama like Irma did. You know what I mean? Or
Right.
you didn't
Right.
have, some
Right.
people aren't lucky when they grow
Exactly.
up or blessed or whatever word you want to use right there.
Exactly.
And they don't know any better. And so they
That's
need a
exactly
leader
right.
who helps
That's
them know
exactly
better.
right. That's exactly right. a leader who helps them know better, who sees them,
Yes.
who's not judgmental
Right.
about it. Again, getting back to their value, that they are important to the organization. But it can wear you out, though. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, yeah. Frustrating
Especially
as
when you
all
got
get out. Yes.
a lot of them.
Right, right. Yeah, you gotta pick the one who's doing the most damage and
Right.
try to work on that one. Yes.
Exactly. You got to pick your battles there too.
Right, and I have a philosophy. I tell my leaders, here's the thing, coach them into the organization or they'll coach themselves out.
Exactly.
Right,
You hit it on the head. You
just
hit it
keep
on the
trying to
head.
bring them in, and eventually they're gonna wake up and do one of two things. They're gonna change, they're gonna
Yes.
wake up, or they're gonna be like, "I don't need this. I'm out of here." And,
Yeah, yeah. And what I saw happening in DC is that the staff started to turn against them. So a lot of the stuff I didn't have to deal with because their coworkers were telling them, "Hey, you don't do that here. We don't do that."
right, that's not how we roll.
That's not how we're doing this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Because back to what Irma said at the beginning of this podcast, she was putting structure in place. Again, people want to be safe. And so what do you need to be safe? You need structure. Like I have a roof over my head right now. I'm really lucky. I'm really blessed, right? I got a front door with a
exactly.
lock on it. All of these structures are very good. They keep me safe. And so when you start to put that in place and people are like, "Oh, that's how we roll," and it feels safe, they will come to your side and
Exactly.
advocate for you when you're not even in the room.
Exactly.
So I think
Yeah.
it's huge. All right, management insight number 12. When presented with what seems impossible choices, select one. I love this so much.
Yeah. Because so many times we get into, oh, they're all bad. Well, yeah, they're all bad. They may all be bad choices. But no decision is a decision.
That's right.
And usually when you let things fester, they get worse. They don't get better. So decide the path, go down that path and make it work. Do everything you can to make it work. So no right or wrong answers, just different paths for different choices.
And,
Yeah.
in that shine coaching methodology that I mentioned just a minute ago, one of the things I tell people is you need to make a choice. It can be little, just get through the doorway on this thing and just take a look around, like what I call a next right step, which is the N in shine. It's like you don't have to choose 100%. You can say, I can choose to take a next step on this choice
Right.
and get in there and look around. What's going on in here?
Right.
What's the deal?
Exactly
And then
right.
you go, "Oh, that's
Yeah.
not the right one. I'm gonna
That's
back
not the
up."
right one.
Yeah,
Back up. Right. Exactly.
good
But if you
stuff.
sit frozen, progress. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one I love more than anything because I preach employee performance management development like a crazy woman, like I don't know, Billy Graham or something. That's my thing is staff development. So management insight 13, staff development is crucial. The key is knowing which ones to develop. Yeah.
And that comes again from an atmosphere of inclusion, of giving everybody a chance to shine. One of the
Yes.
things, and I'm sure you're like this too, nobody sits in a meeting with me without saying something. Everybody's got to talk. Everybody's got to have a chance to be heard. And from those instances, you begin to see what people can do, and then again, the real joy is just seeing them come alive. I mean, there's nothing like it, just
Ah,
seeing
no.
them get better and better and better. And I always said, you've heard this before too, we as managers, we're supposed to work ourselves out of a job. We're
Mhm.
supposed to get it so good that it's running without us. And we're there to do the visioning and the strategic planning and all that stuff because the organization is running.
That's right. That's right. What you
Yeah.
want is a self-managing department.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then you said this thing about you never said, "Promote me." They just were like, "There's Irma. She's killing it. Promote her. She's doing good
Right.
stuff."
Right.
So here's the thing, when you can get promoted, I've told people many times, I'm like, if you don't get your department self-managing or your area, then they're gonna be like, "If we take her out of there, it'll fall apart." But if they know she's got John going now, she's got, Stacy going, she's got Juan going, she's got all these people going, we can get her out of there. In fact, let's promote Juan, you know?
And there are indicators to it too. Like
Yeah.
the thing that DC prepared me for, because it was a government office that was financially driven. I mean, we had to meet certain financial goals in order to get federal funding and all that stuff. So if you couple that with meeting the profit margin
Yeah.
and you're running a smooth operation, of course, the company wants you to do that again and
Somewhere else.
again
Yeah. Fix
and
another
again.
problem. Yeah.
Go fix it. And that's what happened with me. I mean, I ended up being the fixer in several organizations.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Irma and I are long lost sisters because that is so funny you just said that, fixer, because I had the same experience. I was in property management for many, many years. I ran really beautiful Class A apartments. I was in Frederick, up near
Mhm.
DC. I was in
Mhm. I know Frederick.
Columbia. Yeah, I was
I
all
love
around.
Columbia. I lived there for a long time. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was in King's Contrivance. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I
Okay.
was up there and I took this big, beautiful apartment community out of the ground. So you know how long ago this was, long time ago, like 37 or 8 years ago. but I took this thing out of the ground and then they're just like, oh, well, let's give her another one. And then give her another one. And then of course, the apartment business kind of ebbs and flows with the economy. And so when the economy was not great, they would like put her on that one that's a mess and see if she
Mhm.
can clean
Mhm.
it up.
Mhm.
If you could be
Mhm.
the cleanup crew like Irma,
Mhm.
it goes a
Mhm.
long way in your career. Okay,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
speaking of cleanups, management insight number 14 in Irma's book, and don't miss it, it's Leading in Chaos, Insights That Lead Through the Storm. And hey, this is an Eric Hoffer award-winning book, by the way, people. Buy it. All right, so when you believe you have resolved a huge problem, don't be surprised if you see it again.
Don't be surprised if you see it again.
Yep,
And I'm going to be political here a little bit, but we see problems we thought we had solved a long time ago. They're coming back. Don't be surprised if you see them again. I mean, because your detractors never give up.
right.
I mean, if it's something that they feel real strong about, a lot of times they'll just not give up. So you'll have to deal with it again.
Yeah, yeah.
But the difference is you're smarter the second time you see it.
Oh,
You
yeah, you've
you
been
see
down
it
that path.
coming. Yeah, you
Mhm.
see it coming.
That's good stuff. All right. So, management insight 15 is, oh, and we did talk about this one, but let's just put it in here because it's number 15. Cultivate a relationship with the gatekeepers, the secretaries, the admins. They know everything that's going on. So, that's number 15. But let's go to 16. Management insight 16. When someone in authority asks you to keep a secret, don't talk about
Right.
that. Yeah.
That was probably the second time I was ready to go home because it was a
Indianapolis, here I come.
right. And at the time it was government patronage that got some of the jobs in the government. And this particular employee with a PhD thought that he was entitled to the job and that meant that he didn't have to work. So I put him on a performance plan and he ignored it. Instead of him doing what I requested, he ran to his political friend who was
Uh-oh.
the head of the city council. He was the person, and I forget his title, but he was the head of the city council.
Mhm.
And I got a call from the councilman, and I happened to have two people in my office at the time. And the first thing he says to me is, Miss Neal, I've heard about you, and I'm going to have this discussion with you, and I don't want you to tell anybody about this conversation.
Ruh-roh.
And so I said, I just repeated what he said to the people in the office. They were getting ready to leave. I said, don't leave. They stayed there. And I said, you don't want me to tell anybody? Why? And he
Mm.
said, well, this is just between me and you, but I want you to reinstate him. He did a lot of work for me. That job is his, and I want you to reinstate him.
Mm.
And I said, don't you even want to know what he did? I said, I'll send you the file. I'll send you what I'm doing. I said,
Right,
I'll
my
send you the file.
documentation, yeah.
Right. I'll send it to you. Don't you want to know? He said, no, I want
Mm,
you to reinstate him. And I said, well, I can't do that. I said, I couldn't live with myself if I did that. I can't do it.
mm.
Then he got angry and started saying, do you know who I am?
Uh-oh.
Do you know what I can do to you? Do you know the consequences of you saying no to me. And I just said, well, I get all that, but I still got to live with myself.
That's right. It's character.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
integrity.
yeah. So that was that. And because I didn't keep it secret, here come the allies again.
Yes.
When I told the conversation, they just surrounded me and protected me and took care just because I wasn't silent.
Yeah.
I was scared,
Sure you were.
but I
Yeah.
wasn't silent. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, no, don't keep the secrets. Don't
Yeah.
do that.
No, no, no. All right, we've got a couple more management insights left in just a couple minutes. So let me read 17 and 18 for you. The management insight 17. Don't ever think that your detractors will give up. And we did kind of talk about that. That problem will come back around because your detractors are
Mm-mm.
going to never stop trying to get you. Management insight 18. Good documentation is worth more than character witnesses. And I'm an old HR gal, and I'll just say amen to that. Management insight 19, accept that your chain of command might change, have a contingency plan if it does. And 20, don't become too attached to your supervisors. You most likely will never know them well enough to attach your career to them. So those are some really great final nuggets right there. Take us home there, Irma, about, be careful about how close you get and what you do with the people that lead you. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, especially when you're a leader, you do need to keep some distance. You can still be professional, but you just don't know people well enough to attach your whole career to them. Build your own career, follow your own vision, use
Yes.
the people that come in, learn from them, but don't get so attached to them that they stop your growth. Don't buy wholeheartedly into somebody else's dream. Go after your dream, go
Mm.
after your career.
Oh, I love that. I love that. All right. So we have had Irma J. Neal, author of Leading in Chaos. Here it is. This is the book, Insights to Lead Through the Storms. I think this little book is a gem with all these management insights and these stories. I always say this, you can't make this stuff up. It's too
Can't make it up,
crazy.
right? And I kept it short on purpose because you'll remember this. Who moved my cheese?
Yeah, yeah.
Remember that book? Remember how
Oh,
much we got out of that one? So
yeah. Yes.
I kept it short for that reason. Give
Right.
you
You
something
could
to
you
show.
can sit down on Thursday evening, get this done in one sitting. And plus it's a page turner. I mean, like what else happened to this woman? I mean, it's just great. I
Well,
love it.
thank you
I
for
love
that.
it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you for
Yeah.
that.
So here's the thing, everybody. You can find Irma on the LinkedIn. She's on the LinkedIn. Just put her name in there, Irma Neal, and then also her company Onyx. And then, of course, her book is available on the Amazon. And you can go to leadinginchaosinsights.com to find out more about the book as well. So, Irma, people are like, wait, no, one more nugget. One more nugget from Irma. Don't let her go without one more little piece of advice. What would be kind of your last piece of advice that you would give all these leaders and HR folks out there listening to the Build a Vibrant Culture podcast?
I would just say stay focused and don't give up.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the thing, just to stick with it because consistency and resilience, that's really what's going to make the day for you. Yeah. And you'll have a hard time some days, but don't give up. There's
that's
no
right.
such word as can't. You
That's
can do
right.
it.
That
You
was
can
our
do
one
it.
of our first nuggets. That's
Yes,
good.
you can
Yep,
do
she's
it.
brought it full
Right.
circle.
Right. Right.
All right, everybody. That's been another amazing episode of the Build a Vibrant Culture podcast. And I'm Nicole Greer. If you would do us a favor, go right down below wherever you're listening to this podcast, give it a thumbs up, and leave a little love note for Irma. I love listening to you. Let her know you bought her book. So leave us a message. We would sure appreciate it. And I'll see you next time when we release another episode of the Build a Vibrant Culture podcast. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Build a Vibrant Culture podcast. If you found value in today's episode, please take a moment to leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us improve and reach more like-minded listeners. Remember, the journey to building a vibrant culture never stops. Stay inspired, keep nurturing your vibrant culture, and we can't wait to reconnect with you on the next exciting episode of Build a Vibrant Culture podcast.